Hi everyone, welcome back. It's springtime here. Last few days have been in the 60s, so I know this is the time people start doing outdoor stuff and start to neglect their aquariums a little bit. But now is also a good time to get corals on sale. Through the 11th, Lucky 25, you get 25% off all full price corals here at corals.com. But it's springtime, so we're gonna go over some news of my spring picks. St. Patrick's Day is 2 weeks away, and John will have a sale for that as well. But right now he has some really interesting corals. I just wish I had more room in my tanks because I would get a few of these. Unfortunately, I'm probably only gonna get one today, but I won't take one that I'm picking out as one of my picks. So let's start today with something I really like, the Christmas tree rock, colored Christmas tree rock, something new and unique. So we're going to start off with one of my favorite corals because it's not just one coral, it's two animals in one. It's the Christmas tree worms, and some of these are actually micro worms. And in the early days of the hobby, this was one of the first corals that a lot of us tried to keep. We had difficulty keeping Porites alive, which now isn't a problem, but we also had a more difficult time keeping the Christmas tree worms alive. Now, if you get these, if you keep these rocks under the conditions for SPS corals, the Porites does good, but you still have to take care of the worms. So what I have found works is I feed them a emulsion, that is a suspension of Polyp Labs, Reefroids, or Reefs, or some of the foods like that. I put it into a fine suspension, turn off all the current, and then feed these guys. And to make it even easier, what I do is I put a 2-liter bottle or even a half-gallon or a gallon jug from a milk carton, cut the top off, put it over it, and put the food in it, and let the worms eat for a while. And if you do that 2 or 3 times a week, you'll be successful at keeping the worms alive as well as the Porites. If you're really good and you take some pictures, what you'll find is over time, you'll even get more of these Christmas tree worms popping up. That's when you know you're really taking good care of them, is when you see more worms. So you can't just let these guys put them in the tank and think they're gonna do fine and you don't feed them. This is definitely an animal that needs to be fed. Next, we have a unique yellow-tip Euphyllia out of Indo. A lot of the Indo elegance corals tend to have a little bit difficult time. This one's doing really well, and what's really nice about it is the yellow tips. And like most of these big meaty corals, this one does best if you feed it. One of the ways I have found to keep these guys alive and parasite or pest or disease-free is I feed them food that's been infused with metronidazole. So if you want to add that to your food before you feed them, that could go a long way in keeping these guys alive. Now, I have a big soft coral tank, and I have now grown very fond of gorgonians like this. These are photosynthetic. They sway and move a lot in the water. You can see the polyp extension is really nice. I feed these very gently, like once a week. I give them some of Julian's 2 Little Fishes food, and they have done spectacularly for me. In fact, I now have a sea fan that I've had for almost 3 years. I know it's not a gorgonian. These are much easier to keep than the sea fan, but by keeping the sea fan alive, I've been able to keep the gorgonia alive. So again, something that likes a lot of current. You can see them swaying in the motion. You can see the really nice polyp extension. They're not the brightest colors. There are occasionally blue ones, purple ones, and black ones that are also photosynthetic. You can try to wait for those, but if you're looking for something that will move a lot in the current, these are a perfect coral to put in your tank. Now we're in luck because there's multiple heads of this. This is a beautiful pink-eyed Gawny, and you can see how full and healthy these are. They're on discs, they've been maricultured, and this is something that, again, that I feed lightly. And I have found that my Gawnies do much better when they're fed a couple times a week. Play around with the foods. Not everything likes every food. I have like 9 different kinds of food that I feed my corals, and I have found certain foods produce a feeding response. Certain foods produce a repulsive, for lack of a better term, response. So play around with them and see which ones each of your specific animals want. And as you guys know, I love Euphyllias, and this is one of the more unique colored Euphyllias that I've seen. It has green, it has brown, it has orange, it has peach. This is a real keeper. If I had big enough space, this is the coral I would be bringing home this week. Again, feed it lightly a couple times a week. Some people get away without feeding them at all. I have found that my euphyllias do better when I do feed them. Again, Bena Reefs and Reefroids, or some of the reef nutrition foods. Next, we have a really interesting looking Rhodactis. It's not a bounce type, but it's a really cool one because it has multiple colors on it. It's nice sized, and I have seen a few of these in different people's tanks, and these mushrooms tend to propagate very quickly for whatever reason. This is one of the fastest growing of the mushrooms. This is definitely a keeper if you are into interesting looking mushrooms. Now, I know the video probably will not do this justice, but this is one of the nicest Symphilias I've seen in a while. It has pink, purple, green, orange, blue, all in one nice Symphilia. This is a nice bottom of the coral tank. Again, something that should be fed regularly, something that could do well under an overhang or where it's not getting a ton of light. This is a really spectacular looking Symphilia. So if you're into the big open mouth meaty corals, this is something to think of for your tank. Next on our list is a cool little soft coral, clove polyps. These are a bright, vivid green, as you're gonna find, and you can see how big and open they are. If you have a soft coral tank, these are the corals you wanna add on the sides, in the front. They don't get very tall, and they're a nice foreground type of thing. Like for a planted aquarium, I have a freshwater tank. You're always looking for low growing stuff. This is something that would stay low and just grow over the rocks. It's a really nice looking clove polyp. Last but not least is an old guy coral. This is one of the first SPSs that people used to get in, a bright green branching Porites. This does really well. This is a good indicator coral. If you're looking for a beginner coral to start with SPS, this would be the coral that I would get. It's easy to keep, it grows well, it has bright colors, it has little tiny polyps for a nice little polyp extension. It actually looks kind of furry. This would be a nice coral if you're starting off and trying to switch over from a LPS or a mixed tank and you want to try an SPS coral. This is the one that I would get. So that wraps things up for this month. I can't believe it's March already. This year's flying by, which is good and bad. I always like to enjoy the time, particularly springtime and summer. So this is a good time to pick up your corals. 25% off on all full coral price corals, as I said, with the Lucky 25 code. So hopefully you enjoyed the picks this week, and hopefully I gave you some good information.